You say we have been sold short and underestimated. Do you really believe we can all become peak performers? And what do you base your belief upon?
There are many factors involved here, but let me tell you a story about an amazing gentleman named Charles Garfield. He was a coach for the Olympic team in the 70s, the American Olympic team, the weightlifting coach. He was having conversations with the Soviets about the fact that they were able to win so many gold medals. And he accused them one day that they were using drugs. They insisted that they weren't. The debate reigned for days. It was a good-natured debate. And one night they all went out to prove to Garfield that they didn't use drugs, but the secret was something much, much deeper. They went to a gym in Milan, and they opened up the gym. They had to call the mayor of the city to get him to open it up. The Soviets took all their equipment with them, and Garfield was amazed when they hooked him up to this massive equipment and started taking his heartbeat, his respiration, weighing how much he could, they thought his muscle density. And after they studied him carefully, they asked him how much he could bench press. He said that he could probably maybe do 300 pounds. They asked him what his record was when he was doing it regularly, and he said it was 365. But he even doubted he could do 300. He hadn't trained in months. So they said, we're certain you can do 300. So he did. He succeeded in pressing 300. They hooked him back up again, and they started telling him he could. They loaded the bar to 365. They said they wanted him to do that. Now, when they told him that, the dials went way off. He got so nervous. He was so frightened that he couldn't possibly do it. He was in his comfort zone right then. And then they began to talk. Now, this talk began to brush away his self-talk that told him he couldn't do it. They told him he could do it. They had him visualize pressing the 365-pound barbell. It took almost a half hour for him to completely relax and become convinced that he could do it. At that point, they unhooked him. He went and pressed 365 pounds. Now, what he learned from that and what he taught later about that was we all have the potential if we can get in the right frame of mind, if we can visualize, if we can marshal our forces and give everything we got, we can accomplish things that are almost beyond belief. Now, what if we married his concept with Abraham Maslow? And by the way, Garfield believed very strongly in Abraham Maslow, and he also knew the Russians studied Abraham Maslow. Now, what if we married those concepts with Maslow's greatest discovery? What would happen? I think the world would change.
Larry, your book contains a chapter that describes a process known as 54 minutes that will change your life. How does this differ from any normal goal-setting book?
Eric, it's quite different than what we've classically called goal setting. Quite different than what you're taught in by some of the gurus. They start off with what you want. They try to get you to envision a new car, great amounts of money, a new house, all the material things you actually want. We start off with what you're going to give. Our theory is, don't ask the universe what it's going to give you, ask what you can give to the universe. When we start off with your gift and cultivate that, then we move down into the material things, because once you discover your gift, all else can be added to you. That's what we believe, and that's what we believe we're here on the planet to do.
Larry, you describe many turning point experiences in your book, telling how ordinary people transformed their unfinished lives into something magnificent and unforgettable. Is it necessary to have a turning point experience?
There are turning points in people's lives where it appears that some outside force reaches in and helps them and changes their lives. Now, the idea of the MetaValues breakthrough is that we can do that ourselves. We can create that ourselves. However, some of the stories are absolutely amazing. Like Buckminster Fuller when he was a young man, was going to commit suicide. The great creator of the geodesic dome had given up hope, and he had a voice within him that said, you have no right to do that. You don't belong to you. You belong to the universe. And he felt that this voice was telling him, you'll never. He said, well, what can I do? I'm useless. I'm an alcoholic. I probably won't live much longer. This voice told him, You'll never know your significance, but you'll know one thing. If you try to convert all situations to the advantage of others, you'll succeed. You'll reach your highest potential. And he lived by that the rest of his life. He said sometimes he chickened and didn't do that, and things kind of went awry. But whenever he stuck and went back to this belief, for converting all situations to the advantage of others, which is really a very high-minded idea, he was back on track and things went great. So that was an amazing experience, and he lived to be 90-some years old. He lived 50 more years. Absolutely astounding story. And you asked about Abraham Maslow. As a matter of fact, he did. He had an amazing peak experience that converted everything, his entire life, changed his life. It was right after Pearl Harbor. He was driving down the street toward his college, and suddenly he was interrupted because a parade went by. Several American kids and guys in old World War I uniforms were marching. There was an out-of-tune guy playing a flute. There was a flag all ragged going by, and it looked pathetic to him. And then suddenly he was moved to tears, and he realized the condition of the human race. He wondered, must we always go to war? Must we always attack other people? Is there another solution to the world's problems? And then he decided that for the rest of his life, he would devote himself to finding the potential within, the goodness within people, and depart from the Freudian idea and studying people who are sick and maligned and things like that, but to study the greatest and the highest, the 1% who are achievers, and bring that, make it available to all people. From that, his whole career mushroomed, and he became really the prime mover in the new self-actualizing process.
Thank you for watching these introductory videos to the MetaValues Breakthrough. We have barely scratched the surface of this remarkable book, so please monitor this website for more free videos and downloads to help you enter the self-actualization process. If you want a complete blueprint for self-actualizing immediately, order a copy of the MetaValues Breakthrough from your local bookseller, or go to www.amazon.com or www.800ceoread.com. Thank you.